It's all stadium music, and it's powerful, it's exciting, it's, you know, dynamic. It's got all the qualities that kind of get inside you and like lift you and take you out. You know, it's entertainment at its, you know, most powerful.
I don't think that we've seen the likes of Freddie Mercury since. I can't quite see how we're going to see anyone like him again. The world's changed. He's a legend.
I thought, how, you know, what's a real funky rock and roll audience going to say to this prancing ballerina coming on? I thought, fine, I'll sing my rock and roll songs with a tutu on, I don't care.
And whenever there's any sort of poll of greatest, you know, greatest tunes ever, Bohemian Rhapsody always comes up top. So there's this incredible timelessness about them.
Queen emerged from the British progressive rock scene of the early 1970s. A band that the conservative rock industry initially felt it had no place for, Queen quickly found cult status following its inception in 1971, and went on to become one of the most successful British bands of its era. This was largely due to the energy and charisma of the band's flamboyant singer, Freddie Mercury, whose larger-than-life personality seemed to dominate the band during their 20 years until his death in 1991. But credit for their phenomenal success must also be given to the three surviving members, whose unique talents created some of the most exceptional rock music of the late 20th century.
It was make or break, really, with the first two albums. And I think that comes through really well in the music. It stands up to repeated listens because they've got everything to play for. So, first single, Keep Yourself Alive, for instance, which didn't actually chart, it's the only one of their singles which didn't. It's got a lot of life in it, as if the band really were sort of desperate to reach that level of fame, which, you know, was inevitably going to come their way, but there was still a chance that it might not happen. But also on that album, you've got more tender moments.
The first time you can really get to grips with Brian May, there's some stuff on the first album, which is, you know, they had to record it very quickly at night, evidently. But it's the second album, it's Queen 2. Brian's often been quoted as saying this is his favourite album. And to me, the reason is because it's so heavy, you know. It's full-on prog rock, glam rock, or whatever you want to call it. 74, I think it came out. It was absolutely amazing. So Brian wrote all the songs on one side, I think Roger wrote one song on one side, and Freddie wrote all the songs on another side. It was called Side White, Side Black. It was all rock and roll guitar, really heavy stuff.
I remember the first Queen experience I think one had was seeing this probably 7-inch vinyl EMI tune arriving at Radio 1, and the name was very much kind of a stamp of authority somehow. I mean, Queen could have meant all kinds of things. It could be very airy-fairy, but it had just the logo alone seemed to say, we're here and you can hear a lot about us, which was very much part of their image. Whether they thought it all out or not, it looked like they had. They were very authoritative, which was kind of unusual at that time, which was sort of early 70s. People, you know, were still getting over the shock, I think, that the 60s, the big party was all over, and that this was a whole new decade with all different music. And so for a band to come along to have that kind of very positive image from day one was very impressive.
But the next album, which was Sheer Heart Attack, of course, had Killer Queen on, which is one of the classics, certainly one of Queen's classic songs, and arguably one of the classic songs of all time. Got to #2 in the charts, I think, had a fantastic solo in there. And that's the first time I remember being struck by the harmonies, being struck by the arrangements. Massive vocal harmonies, a melody you could hang your hat on.
Top of the Pops was the thing, the Killer Queen thing, and I saw that was the first time, and it was a very odd piece of
footage, but I liked it, and it was. I mean, when they did those things, it was quite riveting, because I mean, you either you liked it or you didn't. They're sort of quite instant. I think later on in later music, it grows on you and other things, but it was quite a bizarre with this little half mic and the fingernails and things.
I would say that on the back of Killer Queen, if you hear Brian play, he was starting to make his reputation as one of the best UK rock guitar players. He's technically fine. There are many better guitar players than him. Again, he'd be the first to admit it. But he's unique, and if that's a mark of whether you're a good player or not, then he's absolutely one of the best who's ever lived. There's no doubt about it at all. You hear him play, you know that it's him.
Brian is an individual that you listen to music and you think, hang on, that's Brian. He's got, you know, the Brian sound. I mean, and you know, he's recognised as one of the best guitarists in the world. You know, as Freddie was vocalist when he was alive, people knew his voice. It's an instantly recognisable sound.
He was a phenomenal singer. I mean, that voice. I mean, it was so strong, and you know, the great singers always pitch just under the note, you know, just over the note, because the projection is above. That's what carries it all above, you know, or below. And that's what he could do, you know. That's why it was so strong, because it cut through everything.
It crossed the bridge between operatic and pop. His technique was incredible. I mean, he could reach the highest notes. And he used to come home and we'd put on videos, you know, in his house, and he would show me things like who could reach the top notes in all these opera performances. He had endless tapes of opera, and he'd start singing along with it and reach those notes himself. So I think he could have been... Well, I think his composing and his singing comes from a classical world and integrated with pop music, so it had that wonderful crossover.
John Deacon is an amazing bassist, and he is underrated, I think, musically and also as a songwriter. You know, things like You're My Best Friend, brilliant, brilliant songs, and if it weren't for the fact that they were overshadowed by some of the larger singles of Queen's career, I think he would have been the absolute champion songwriter in Queen. And technically as well, I think he's an amazing bassist in that he can play a bass line and make it sound fluid or smooth or just completely natural.
And Roger, of course, you know, is just again like Freddie, a showman. You know. He loved, you know, that whole expressive, dramatic performance that they provided, you know. And he's a great drummer, you know, and he just, you know, the vocals, of course, were, you know, a great, you know, with the three of them, with Brian, Roger and Fred. It just, you know, they're just so professional, and that's what really made them.